you've been at this for 20 years now, and I know from our many interviews over the years that negotiations with presidential campaigns have often been tough. I'm wondering about this past 24 hours for the commission. What's it been like?
Well, so, there was always a debate about the debates, and we felt very fortunate this year is that, we didn't have those problems. When we come out with the new proposal for the new format, immediately Senator McCain and Senator Obama agreed. I mean, things were going very, very smoothly until the other night when Senator McCain made his announcement. So the last 24 hours, as you can imagine, we have been on tenterhooks, along with everyone here at the University of Mississippi, who spent a tremendous amount of time and energy getting ready. But it all worked out in the end. So we're very excited and looking forward to tonight's debate.
Yeah, the chosen topic for tonight was, as agreed with the candidates, was foreign policy, with the great events of the past week here on the financial markets and the pending negotiations over a package. How will that change the format?
Well, you will hear Jim Lara during his introduction make very clear that the question of foreign policy and national security will, in fact, touch upon the international financial crisis. So there will be questions dealing with it because clearly if we're having the difficulties that we're having in Washington now, it touches everyone internationally, and it is something that affects concern. Now, no one knows what Jim's going to ask other than Jim, but he will mention that in his opening remarks. One
of the things that historically people have seen on the C-SPAN network that you can't see elsewhere is the introduction to the audience sitting there in the Ford Center about how the mechanics of the debate will run. So our audience will get to see that in just about 25 minutes. I'm going to ask you to tell our audience who's sitting in the Ford Center tonight.
Well, the tickets are divided historically. 1/3 will go to Senator Obama and his supporters. 1/3 will go to Senator McCain and his supporters. 1/6 goes to the commission, and 1/6 goes to the university. Chancellor Kayat, who I think you're going to be interviewing shortly, has, I think, wisely decided to give that 1/6 to students. So you're going to have a lot of Ole Miss students in the audience, and we also have a lot of them who are volunteering as ushers and interns, so it's really a student event. And then you will have supporters of both candidates. I'm sure that the majority leader and minority leader of the Senate and the Speaker of the House. So you're going to have the normal group from Washington who will, have great interest. Those that aren't, in Washington working tonight, hopefully a lot of them are working to get this package done one way or the other. And then there'll be, supporters of the commission. So it's a very mixed audience. This is a beautiful, beautiful theater for the performing arts. It's filling up very rapidly, as you can probably see behind me.
Mr. Fahrenkopf, a little bit of history from you. I mentioned that this is the 20th anniversary. First presidential debate the commission hosted was in 1988. This is also another historic night for presidential debates. The very first modern-era presidential debate, 48 years ago this very night, the first Kennedy-Nixon debate.
Yes.
Will you talk a little bit about the role that presidential debates have played in our election process in the modern age?
Well, most people think about the start in the modern age of presidential debates and, of course, always go back to the JFK-Nixon debates. But most people forget that for 16 years after that, we didn't have debates. There was no way Lyndon Johnson was going to get on a stage with Barry Goldwater. He refused to debate. And Richard Nixon's experiences in the 1960 debate were such that he refused to debate in his two runs. And it really wasn't until 1976 when, after Jerry Ford had pardoned President Nixon and he was trailing in the polls, that we went back to having debates. And we've had them ever since. And they've been extremely important. We analyze and do a lot of polling. We know over the last at least 20 years that 65% of the American public say that observing the debates and the impressions they get from the debates are not the sole factor in how they're going to vote, but an important factor in making up their decisions. So it's very, very important. And with what's going on in the world today, with the historic nature of this campaign, one way or another, we're either going to have the first African-American president or the first woman vice president. We expect there to be a tremendous audience tonight. And if it wasn't Friday night and interfering with Friday night football, all over the country. I think we would maybe even have a chance to go over 100 million people.
The 1960 debates were the very first televised debate. You could argue that this is the first fully digital internet era debate. What would you say to the large blogger internet community about the fact that this is still primarily focused on the television audience, the way that the format is organized?
You know, we really wrestled with that, Susan. Of course, you're going to be able to watch on the internet. Streaming is going to be on throughout the debate. But we also tried to figure out how, in this process this year, we could somehow involve the internet. And of course, at the town hall debate, which will take place in a couple of weeks in Nashville, and as you know, that's the debate which has become really the most popular among the American people, because about 100 to 125 people in the Nashville area will actually be the ones asking questions of the candidates. But we also have an internet capacity where questions will be coming in on the internet, and Tom Brokaw, who will moderate that debate, will have the discretion to intersperse internet questions as they come in, along with the questions from the citizens of Nashville who are going to make up that audience.
Well, as we mentioned, we're going to see you again on stage in just a short while with instructions to the audience about all the mechanics for tonight. We know you've got some work to do, so thanks for starting off our program with us, and appreciate your time.
Thanks, C-SPAN.
And to return to the other big political story of the day, of course, the continuing negotiations on Capitol Hill. Jay Newton-Small has been very gracious to stay on the phone with us, covering the campaign for Time Magazine, and back to Washington today for